Okay, everybody, we're going to start project 15. 15 is a 45-degree change elbow or angle with a curved throat and a curved back. So being this a change elbow, the dimensions are going to be the air entering on the 10-inch side and leaving on the 8-inch side. With that being said, because of this change dimension, we are going to have to build the left-hand piece and the right-hand piece. I've got the left-hand piece drawn out already, so I'm going to try to get it so you can follow along with the left-hand piece as I draw the right-hand piece and be able to make that image, that mirror image of each other. The second page of this plan here has just the basic write-up off of a generic drawing of this. What you need to focus on when you go through reading this plan here is that these numbers in the layout correspond to this pattern, and then they've got the opposite views of it. So we're going to apply this concept here to the piece of metal and lay this all out. So let's set them aside. This is your actual drawing. This is the third drawing that goes along with this setup here. And these are the dimensions that we're going to make this. So we're going to have a 4-inch radius and a 10-inch opening, and then a 4-inch inner throat radius here as well, but it's going to transition to the 8-inch exiting, so the air is going to flow through in that direction. So let's go on and get into this. These numbers, like for example 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, and so on there, they correspond to that other drawing. So let's see if we can make something of this work. First things first is get yourself a piece of metal, and for this project I don't really recommend cutting a piece of metal. If you can use the edge of the sheet, that's kind of nice and helpful, just because they are kind of big. It's a small project, but it does take up a little bit of space to make these dimensions that we need. So right now I got the left-hand piece sitting here. It doesn't matter really how you start, but I would start with your pivot point close to one edge, so you can flip them, for example, and make this your left and that's your right. Just keep your pivot points opposite of each other. So if either they're both in the center or they're both on the outside, it's up to you. So for right now, this sheet is split. I would maybe do it, say if this was a 48-inch wide sheet or a 36-inch wide sheet, I would just put both my pivots on the outer corners and then cut it off for the height later after I was done, and then use the center portion for something else as time goes on. But for right now, I'm going to draw it so you can see the mirror image of each other. So we've got to start here. If I get my plan in here, we're going to start by getting our 1/2-inch take up here for our slip and drive or our S-cleat down the line. So we're going to put that on the bottom. So I've already done it on the left-hand piece here. I just took my scribe and I've set that on the 1/2-inch and brought that across. So we're going to do the same on this other one. The next thing you can do is you can put just a small indentation there, so when you are using your scribe, you don't have to be setting it right on the edge of the sheet. So I used a 1/4-inch take up. You can use 1/2-inch or whatever fits for you there. So I just went up a ways, 12 inches or so, and made myself a 1/4-inch mark. Now that I've got that mark there at 1/4-inch and a 1/2-inch, I'm just going to use my scratch awl and put a small indentation in the sheet so I've got my starting point. From there, I'm going to take my tape measure. So I've already done the indentation on this one here, and I'm going to measure over and find this distance of 4 inches from my pivot point, and then this is a 1/4-inch take up, so I'll measure over 3 3/4 and finish that off as well. So if I pull it out to the foot mark, I've got 3 3/4 marked here, and then if I move over a 1/4-inch, I've got 4 inches marked there. So let's do the same thing on this right hand portion of the sheet, or the other half. We're going to mark it at 3 3/4 as well as 4 in no particular order. Now that I've got those dimensions in there, I'm going to again take my scratch awl and put just a small indentation into the sheet so I know where they are. Okay. At this point, I've got my 4-inch mark and my 3 3/4 mark for this arc laid out. So we can do that now, or we can do it later. I'm talking about it, so let's do it. We're going to take our dividers, set it on the dimension here, and I'm going to try and do these both at the exact same time. So both of these need to be marked. 3 3/4 to start, our inside mark, and that one really only has to go up to about a 45-degree angle, which is plenty sufficient. And then we'll go to our 90-degree, or rather the next mark, the 4-inch mark, 0 to 4, and we're going to pull that one all the way up to a 90-degree for a little bit later. We'll need that. The sheet's only going to be 45 degrees, but we're going to take it all the way to the 90 so we can split this dimension and find that in a second here. Again, with my awl, I'm just going to mark these for you so you can see them on that there point. Now, in order to get a 45-degree angle, it's simply bisecting or splitting a 90 degree in half, and that's what I've got in this corner here. So you can do it a couple different ways. You can get your square out and you can mark, and use the 45 and things, or being as I have my dividers in hand and set, and I think this is a pretty accurate way to do this, is that arc that I just struck, go to my upper pivot point and then strike a half an arc here, and then go to my same but opposite side and we'll strike the other arc. Now where those two arcs crossed from my original pivot point will be a true 45 all the way up, and I'll do that on both sheets at the same time. So that point was right here and right there that I'm looking for. So this is point number 1. This one is I can't say that yet. That's not point 2 yet. So with that 45 degrees, I'm going to take my straight edge and we're going to use my scratch awl and run that all the way up through there to the setup. Hope you can see this. And I'm going to take that up there quite a ways. The piece isn't that long, but we're going to pull that up there some good distance. So make certain you hit exactly right in the center of those that mark there. So I've done this on both sheets. Again, I struck, I don't know if you can see that, but I struck the two arcs here from the 90, and then I've drawn my 45 all the way up through and taken it way off the page quite a ways up in there. Looking at this here, if you'll notice, this was our line, but we've got to add an additional ½ inch extension onto that for the same as down here. Here's your dimension, a ½ inch take up for the slip and drive, and same from here to here is an additional ½ inch. So let's add that on to our setup. We simply can do that by taking our tape measure and marking an additional ½ inch. I just pulled it to the nearest inch, set it on the mark, and then set it. Okay, and then with that, we'll do the same thing again. And we'll use our straight edge and make that mark. Now we've got our 45 degree plus an additional ½ inch for that S-clip or take-up of the slip and drive that needs to be on there also. We've got our 4-inch drawn. That's taken care of here to this point. Now we got to determine the dimension between our 4-inch, which is right here at the inside mark, if you can see that, on up to our 8-inch mark, or our 8-inch air leaving portion. So I'm just going to use the nearest foot. Make certain you're on the right mark here, per the plan, which says it's on the inside mark is where our 0 is going to be. So I'm going to use 12, and then I need an additional 8 inches. So using the red numbers, we can get that. And while I've got it there, I'll notice I need an additional 1/4 inch for the easy edge, or the lock form. So we're going to put that on right now also. And again, so we can see it, I'll just put a couple divots in there, small ones. Now I've established point number 3 per the plan. So I had 2. Let me mark some of these for you. 2 was the inside 1/4 inch mark. Right here was point number 2. And then that gave me point number 3 way up here at the end on the inside 1/4 inch mark. This one right here, not the outside, but this one is point number 3 with that. Okay, moving on then, we want to establish point A down here. And in order to establish point A, what we're going to do is we're going to take this 90-degree mark that was the inside line here that I've extended way up here off the page, and I'm going to bisect 180 degrees to come up with the 90 degree. So I'll show you how I do that. So from point 3, what I'm going to do is just take my dividers, set them out to any dimension that fits on the page, set it on my mark, my inside 1/4, and then I'm just going to put a small arc up here and a small arc down here. Now if it wasn't for example, if it was the 90 where we bisected that, I didn't have to make these any wider. Well, 180 degrees I'm going to have to make them wider because it won't reach the middle. So before I lose these marks, I'm just going to put a dot on them where they are so I don't lose that. And then I'm going to make my dividers bigger. Now the bigger you go here that fits on the page, the more precise you'll be. So setting it on my original mark again. We're aiming for something in this direction, so we're going to pull it out here at about a 90 degree off the 45, and we'll strike an arc. And then we'll use the other half of our previously struck mark over here, 90 degree, and we're going to find the center of 180 to bring this out to 90. Now I took that quite extreme as far as I could because I think it's just a little bit more precise the bigger your arcs are, and I've had a little bit better luck with it, but it works both ways. And then with my straight edge from point 3, make sure you get the right one. We're on the inner point 3 there to our crosshairs that we just had down here. We're going to pull that down and find this. Make sure I get that set up just right. And with that, so I'm going backwards, and I've done the same thing over here. From point 3, struck the 180 degrees, found the 90 degree mark. That one was up here, and we're going to bring that all the way down, and we're going to establish point A, which is what we just did, where our 1/2 inch mark from the bottom and this 8-inch mark cross. So this is point A, and I'll mark that. Now that I've got point A established, I need to establish these other marks inside of here. So we've got to find a distance between here so we can establish point 5. So I've got 1, 2, and 3 done. A is done. Now I've got to find point number 4. And I'm going to find point number 4 by taking my 4 inches plus my 10 inches in finding that particular location. So we're flip-flopped. So previously I measured it from here to here to find point 4. Now I'm going to be measuring it from here, this direction, to find that 0.4. So we're looking at 10 inches in between our marks. So I'll pull it to the nearest foot, make certain I got it on the right 1/4 inch here, and then we're going to mark 10 inches. Right there. And with the 10-inch mark, I'm also going to put the divot in there. And while I'm at that 10 inches, I noticed that I need an additional 1/4 inch on the bottom for the lock form, so I might as well as pull that also. So we were sitting like this before, 10 inches plus an additional 1/4, or 10 1/4 inches, and we'll put that divot in there also. Okay, couple different ways you can make this now. We've got to establish this line to bring it up to point number 5, so I can do it with a square, or again we can bisect that 180-degree mark there and pull it up there. I used the bisect method before, so this time I'm just going to use the square so you can see that. And we need that on the inside 1/4 inch mark. So previously it was on this side, the inside. Means I'm making the mirror image, I need to be on the left hand portion, and we're going to pull that up there with the square. With that, now I've established point number 5 up here. So let me mark that. Right there's point number 5. With point number 5 established, I'm going to go back to my dividers. 4 is already established also. Let me mark him as well. That's point 4. 4 and 5 are now there. Now I've got to establish point number 6, and that is brought to us by the radius between point 5 and point 4. So just like before, I went from point 5 on this sheet down here to point 4, found my distance, and when I strike that mark, it's going to bring me up to point 6. Whoops, if I stay on the points, if I don't move anyway, that should work. Right there, brought up to point number 6. So same deal on the other half of the sheet. Find our point 5 into 4 radius, and then we're going to pull that up to there on our previously established 45-degree angle. And now I've found point number 6 right there, point 6. Now that I've got point 6 on each of these, I've got to find this straight line, which is exactly half of the 180 degrees, a 90-degree angle, and bring that down to the bottom of the sheet to find point 7. So just like before, now that I've got point 6, we'll set our dividers up here on point 6 to some angle. This is what I used before, some random angle, any size. Strike an arc here, strike an arc there. So let's do that on the same. So from point 6, I'm going to strike an arc here, and then I'm just going to kind of circle that so we don't lose it in everything, and then flip it around. And that one didn't work out very good. I should probably make that bigger because it lands right on number 5 there, but for now it'll be okay. And that's my other half. And with the dividers in, we're going to open them up, make them bigger, and then we're going to try to come out something down this direction from those 2 points. So we can't go too big, otherwise we'll be off the sheet, but it does have to be bigger than the 0.6, or the half the distance there. So half of 180 degrees is my 90. Set it on my points. Strike an arc somewhere in that direction, and then put it over here. We'll strike the other arc. And now, with my straight edge, I should be able to establish from point 6 through my new crosshairs And that should be a perfect 90 right on down to the other end of the sheet. Now I've established point number 7 right here. We're just about there. Finally, with point 7 established, I can make my heels arc off the section. So here was 7 down here. With my dividers, I'm going to find a radius from point 7 to point 4, which should also be the point 6. 7 to 4 should match point 6 up here at the top. And here we go again, making certain I make a left and a right. So we don't want to go this way, we got to come down. Point 7 to point 6 and point 4. I should be able to strike the inside arc, and then if I add the additional 1/4 inch on from point 7, I should be able to strike the external arc as well. So from point 6 right on down. So pivot point on number 7, the 4 point plus the 1/4, right up to 6. The last thing I've got to do is I got to complete the 1/4 inch dimension between them, so we can simply measure it. Add an additional 1/4 inch on here for that straight section, here to there. And connect the dots. Last thing to do before you go and cut this sheet is to check your dimensions. On the top two, the mirror images, we should have an 8-inch air leaving port, and on the bottom we should have a 10-inch air entering port. So let's just pull them out there. We can do it this way or however you feel comfortable. That's 10 inches. This piece over here should be identical. If I get it on the right spots. And that is 10 inches there, and an 8-inch air leaving port there. And from this pivot, again, the 8-inch leaving port. That is everything for fabrication of the left hand and the right hand part. I encourage you to build both of these at the same time, so when you got your dividers set, you can do the left hand as well as the right hand piece and make them two absolutely identical. And I think it helps with keeping the confusion level down, because there is a lot of points on these. It is very helpful to reference the sheet. It walks you through it one step at a time in reference to the point numbers. I'd also encourage that you put your numbers on the inside of the sheet there, on the inside panel, so when you get done there you don't have marks on the outside, but at least it'll keep you on track and make the right part. So that's all for this video. In a little bit we're going to start the next segment of me cutting it out.